Okay. Hello, everyone. We're Team More Coffee, Please, and we're here to present our project case, Collective Action for Smallholders Empowerment in Barol Region, Eastern Kalimantan. We're here to represent our organization, Indonesia Sustainable Palm Oil Forum, which has three main goals: sustainable development, empowering smallholders, and environmental conservation. We believe that the existing regulatory barriers for palm oil industry in Indonesia really falls into the hands of smallholders. In Indonesia, 40% of all palm oil plantations are managed by smallholders, and the percentage is expected to grow to 60% by 2030. Together, smallholder farmers manage more than 3.1 million hectares of oil palm farmlands. While large corporations are under much supervision and exposure, smallholders appear invisible in the regulatory process. Due to lack of funds, smallholder farms face many challenges, including high cost and low productivity. When compared with large-scale companies, smallholders consistently underperform and face a productivity gap between 3 tons per ha and 9 tons per ha. This leads to a more marginal land usage, including peatlands being developed into oil palm lands. Since peatland is a major source of carbon sinks, palm tree plantations on peatland can result in excessive carbon dioxide emission and deforestation. Our organization already has a national action plan in place. The problem is that the plan is lacking local implementation and adjustments, which is what we aim to do through our case initiative. In our project, we're going to focus on one specific region, the Barol district, which Claudia will further introduce us to.
As Faye mentioned, the district that we identify is a brewer district in East Kalimantan. It takes up about 1% of the population of East Kalimantan overall. It has 25% of smallholder farmers. To give you a more perspective of how many this is, in 2018, a report by the Climate Initiative Project reported that there identified 304 smallholder farmers within 9 different villages across the district. Other than identifying the number of smallholder farmers, we thought it was essential to identify the number of mills in the region. This is due to the process of palm oil production, where it goes from a farm to a mill and lastly to the refinery. Therefore, the number of mills is also essential in how we will distribute and relocate field schools, as we will explain further. The next step that we did was identify the key stakeholders in the situation. As you can see, we have circled out the 2 main groups of high interest stakeholders. First of all, looking at low power, high interest, we have smallholders in the local community. For smallholders, the main goal that we want to succeed for them is to increase their revenue and productivity. And for the local community, what we wanted to do was mitigate the environmental detrimental impacts that they currently have, which include loss of biodiversity, deforestation, and carbon dioxide emissions. And the best way we thought to do this would to be able to link them to high interest, high power groups. And in that, we identified corporations, government agencies, and impact investment funds. So the best way that we thought to connect these and to fill in the gap of the lack of knowledge and lack of funds would to be including impact investment.
Taking all of that into consideration, our team proposed a solution that connects impact investors and smallholders to generate sustainable farming and better environmental outcomes. First, let's explain impact investment. Impact investment is the fund with the intention to generate a social or environmental impact along with a financial return. We think this is the suitable solution for the current problems facing palm oil industry because it provides economic incentives for both parties involved. For our proposed timeline, the first quarter will be spent on further identifying smallholders and fieldwork survey. This also includes updating local mapping under the framework that our organization already established. We would also establish contract terms based on results from the surveys and focus on what the local people actually demands and cares about. In the second phase, we will pitch to impact investors such as NatureVest and potential participants among smallholders. The third quarter will be the launch of the program. In our fourth quarter, we plan to conduct check-ins with loan availabilities and follow-ups with local communities.
One main part of implementing our programs includes the implementation of field schools. So field schools are what teaches farmers to do sustainable farming. And this includes courses varying from good agricultural practices, also known as GAP, environmental conservation, and ISPO, RSPO certification. And the results from the current field schools that are established have a great outcome. So in 2018, UNDP reported that productivity from smallhold farmers increased from 0.6 tons per ha to 0.9 tons per ha. Including that, the GGP also concluded in 2018 that the amount of knowledge absorbed from these farmer modules increased by 20% from pre-test to protest. And so if these schools are so great, what is the major problem that we're currently looking at, and how does More Coffee Please solve this? So the National Action Plan currently only has 13 units of field schools nationwide. And as you can see, by simply identifying the number of smallhold farmers in one small region as Baru, there are 304 smallhold farmers, yet there is a lack of access to this kind of education. Therefore, based on the number of mills in this region, which are 7, we currently plan in the first year to expand the number of field schools by at least 2 to 3.
Main funding of our program is consisted of 2 parts. The NGO money coming from within our organization goes to establishing field schools, and the impact investment money goes directly into smallholder farms. So what is the contract we have here? For our impact investors, they will provide funding in forms of loans or investments with low or zero interest rates. And in return, they will benefit from the increased profit from smallholder farms. Also, the investment would generate positive environmental outcomes, which aligns with the impact investors' goals. For smallholders, we will ask them to uphold the sustainable contract terms, which includes, for example, completion of education in field schools, sustainable farming, collaborations with mills and refineries with certain certificates, and complying with land mapping and planning regulations. In return, they will take advantage of the investment fund and increase productivity, thus increase their overall profit. Also, field schools and third-party check-ins create job opportunities in the community, further developing sustainability in the region. Simply put, investors provide funds to smallholders that comply with sustainable contract terms. The investment then goes into the development of productivity and more efficient farming. This leads to the more efficient use of land, which decreases further deforestation and lower carbon dioxide emissions, with what we believe greater benefit for both parties.
The next main issue that we want to focus on is accountability. How are we going to make sure these smallhold farmers are meeting our contract terms and meeting these checks and balances of following these regulations? And there are 2 reasons why we identified a third-party platform to conduct this accountability check. The first reason is coming from a third party, this adds accountability and credibility to the results. For example, using our own NGO may have some biased results it may seem biased from other people and other crowds and audiences. Therefore, using a third party increases its validity and credibility of the results here. The second reason is the 2 platforms that we identified, Worldwide Generation and G17 Echo, have strived to automate mapping, monitoring, measuring, marketing, from end to end. So sorry. So basically what they do is they go in a process that is trust, transparency, and partnership. They not only link the stakeholders to the company and the smallholders, but they also engage with the local team that is able to monitor the whole process. In this, we think a key part is to generate local jobs for the local community. Therefore, we're not only talking about giving these smallholders money, but also engaging the whole local community into our process. This is essential in ways to see how the local community is better at enforcing these kind of regulations rather than coming from an outside source.
So what are the deliverables for our case initiative? Within our first year of Project Launch, we aim to establish 2 to 3 new field training schools in the Baral area. By attracting and sourcing capital from impact investors, we'll introduce funding for 20 to 50 smallholders, therefore decreasing the current productivity gap by 10%. Nevertheless, this is more than a 1-year pilot program, so we aim to scale up our operation to outside the Baral region and provide funding for more smallholders to develop their farm. By increasing their efficiency and productivity, we're expecting to see less deforestation, less carbon emission, and more sustainable practices. In addition to long-term goals mentioned, we're also expanding our practices to the village refineries and mills. By building a local ecosystem of palm oil tree supplies, we expect to see more revenue increase for the local communities and smallholders. Finally, we truly believe that this program is going hand to hand with the Sustainable Development Goals. Aside from the goals that we already touched upon, another aspect to highlight is how this program could improve gender equality in the region. Research showed that women smallholders perform better than their male counterparts. By allocating more money to women smallholders, we will be able to promote their individual economic growth. As mentioned earlier, our program would also create a large amount of jobs for the local community, thus facilitating their local works condition. And with that, we wrap up the More Coffee Please project initiative, and we're open to any questions.
Thank you, team. More coffee, please. And now the judges will have 5 minutes to ask any questions.
Well done, ladies. My question to you is, I was trying to help me understand a little bit the model. I was trying to figure out if the impact fund was a separate entity from the NGO, or if you're using the impact fund's sort of fees that you will be collecting to manage the NGO. Is the impact fund sort of the key financing mechanism for the NGO for you to carry on your activities, or the management fee from that going to the NGO? Help me understand the model a little bit.
Yeah, so I think a more easy way of explaining it is basically we get money from the impact investment. So they get the impact investment from corporate money that they take in. And what they do is we connect the impact investment to find the things that they can invest in. So we would use the money that they give us into funding the project that we propose.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you assess like the investment worthiness of different smallholder farms or farmers? Like, how are you able to assure your impact investors that these are good ones?
Well, to start, we have the contract that basically states that you have to in order to be qualified for the fund, you need to finish the complete the education at the schools, the field schools, and then what we proposed in our contract terms are basically things that they can do without adding a lot of cost to their original budget. So for example, education wouldn't cost much, and then sustainable farming, that wouldn't cost a lot of money because they already got the technology from the field schools. And collaborations with further with mills and refineries, that wouldn't take a lot of money. So it was the contract terms was more about whether they're willing to put into the effort of a sustainable way of farming instead of like putting in more money. So, and also another way of trying to ensure that people are actually using this money to put into like actually developing it would be we propose to have contract terms, and we would basically have stuff that we need to check in every year end. So we're basically doing something that's similar to what countries are doing with international aid. If you're not doing it right, if you're violating the rules, the investors are going to take away the investment money, basically.
Can I ask one more question? Just, I might have missed it in the presentation, but when you talk about the third party assessors, which makes sense for the concerns of conflict of interest, but how is that piece funded? Is that part of the NGO fees go to pay that, or just trying to understand the financing of that aspect?
Yeah, that would be the part where the funding would come from our NGO, like NGO ourselves. And so essentially we propose that there will be 2 tracks of funding. So the first funding that goes to the smallholders themselves won't be paid by the organization ourselves, but by the investing company that we connect with. But for the assessing and the monitoring system, where we bring up like third parties, we will be using our own fundings to source this action.
So the fund and the NGO are separate things. So are you building a fund where you're taking investor money and then you're allocating it? Or are you just facilitating the investment between investor and smallhold farm, like the farmer?
Yeah, the later option. So for that, we're just facilitating the financial connection between the company we connect with and the people who are going to receive them.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have a budget that you've scoped out for this?
So basically, I don't think, as this is kind of a 24-hour competition, we didn't really have the time to, go through a very thorough kind of specific financial budget. And so in this case, another thing that we kind of kept in mind was, if we're only connecting companies, it really decides on how much the impact investment firms are willing to put money into this project. And so our role is really to see how we would allocate whatever available funds are there for funneling that money through to these smallholder investors. So.
Okay, that is all the time we have for questions. Thank you very much, team. More coffee, please. And now the judges will have 5 minutes to deliberate.
Nice work.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we good to have another team after this deliberation, or do you need another break or anything?